Thank you. We're going to make a transition here to our good friend Mark Taylor-Canfield, who, of course, is our Renaissance man on the Jeff Santos Show. He, of course, as the executive director of Democracy Watch News, he is a great musician in his own right, his own local band. He is an activist going back to 2000, and he is Mark Taylor-Canfield with his guitar, I think, trying to communicate with us. Mr. Mark Taylor-Canfield, live from the 206. How are you, sir?
I'm still rocking.
Good to hear that again, man.
And rocking
Still rocking in the free
Seattle,
world, huh?
USA. Yeah, we're rocking it in Seattle. Hey, great blues that I heard earlier. Was loving that. Glad to hear the music back on the show. Glad to hear you back and see the videos of all these cool people. You're looking good, by the way, in the video. And
thank you, man.
Harvey was sounding really great as usual. I want to call these people FDR crats, I think, because they're Democrats who actually believe in what FDR had as a vision for our country, and we really need that today. So I think I'm just going to start calling this crowd the FDR crats, and I don't think that they would mind, being associated with such a superstar.
No, I don't think so.
Particularly
a guy like Harvey K, who wrote about him and understands, and the Economic Bill of Rights is based on that, right? Hey, we're excited about every time we see a candidate like Fetterman, or now we hear about Mandela Barnes being the progressive lieutenant governor of Wisconsin being the nominee. Everybody's getting out of the race to endorse him. And, but you have a governor there in Jay Inslee who is Mr. Environment. And, this deal that Manchin had, and of course they've taken a lot of big things like rail out of it and so on and so forth. But, I'm wondering, how he feels about this because, he's built his career. He ran for president as the environmental dude. How is that, being talked about, his agenda being incorporated into Washington again? How much of it's going to be left out? There's just going to be more drilling, I guess, in the environmental legislation that Manchin signed. Of course, he's coal man and all that. What do you make of that? And what is the word in Seattle and in the state capital?
And what is Manchin getting? How much is he getting paid? Oh, wait, I didn't say that.
Yeah, they had to do something. Maybe the daughter, who's a pharmaceutical executive, is getting a kickback. Who knows? Do we lose you, Mark? We may have lost a good friend, Mark Taylor-Canfield, for a second. Let's give it another few seconds here. We're talking with our good friend Mark Taylor-Canfield, again, the executive director of Democracy Watch News, and hopefully we can get him back alive with us. He's based there in Seattle, and we're going to actually take a call from Seattle, talk to our good friend Shay in a couple of minutes as well, and hopefully we can get Mark Taylor-Canfield back live with us. Hopefully, if that's the case, we can try to make that happen. Okay, let's go ahead and see if we can get Mark Taylor-Canfield back. Tell you what, let's go to the phones and bring in Shay, and hopefully, at that point we can get Mark Taylor-Canfield back as well. Shay, can you hear me?
Hey, I can hear you.
Very good, my friend. Hanging in there. Kind of a crazy day, to say the least. What's on your mind today?
Yeah. So I was just curious. This is a little bit off topic, but I was just curious. So, the news that we've been hearing over the past maybe like month or two or so that the Democratic Party is starting to fund all these MAGA crazies in their congressional races with the hopes
Yes,
that
stupid.
the crazier the candidate, the easier that they will be to be. Yeah, so I was just kind of curious. Like, so first of all, I thought it was kind of funny that I found out about that from MSNBC of all places, which I thought was kind of hilarious because usually MSNBC is kind of in lockstep with the corporate Democrats, And I was just kind of curious if I haven't really looked into it too much, but I was just wondering if like, I guess A, whose idea was that? B, who's funding this? And C, like with the Democrats' track record of success on things like this, like how do they not know that they're probably going to screw this up and it's probably going to go badly?
Yes. You said it properly. They could figure a way to screw it up, Look, this is typical, of neoliberals. It's typical of the the folks that run the DNC. It's typical of the Republican influence. Now that Cheney and Mr. Steele, who ran the Republican Party, and other are all on speed dial to the DNC and the Biden administration. I can only tell you that they think that they can, pick the candidate, and in some cases, in the past, you can do that. But you're playing with fire when you talk about fascists, like people who are supporting Donald Trump. I mean, it only takes, with the,
Exactly.
with the way the population is today, people who can smile and dial and can. And I mean, Trump was a perfect example of this. And the Democrats and the country is rue to the idea that you can beat Donald Trump. It's going to be George Bush brother, Jeb Bush. He's the strongest candidate, or maybe some others too. And you ended up with a horror show that's still affecting us to today, and saw what happened on January 6th. So to
Right.
me, this is insane. And it's a lot of people in Washington, that make 6 7 figures, they're consulting, and hey, I have an idea, we can get all these right-wing candidates and make sure Democrats can win. No, because that what ends up happening if you don't put a good nominee in for the Democratic Party. What ends up happening, and this has been proven time and time again, the Republican will win. I mean, you put in a
Right.
mediocre candidate like Hillary Clinton was. We saw what happened in 2016.
Right. Yeah. I mean, just to me, it's almost like, well, if the Democrats would just act on their proposed agenda and, particularly the more progressive sides of it, then they don't have to play games like this because everybody will vote for them. It's kind of like when Trump, he lost. A lot of people say he lost the election because he bungled COVID, and it's like, and he spent so much time and energy fighting against, trying to shut down, testing and like, et cetera, when it's like, it would have been so much easier for him to just do a good job, and then he wouldn't have had to do January 6th. He would have just won. It's like, it's like they're taking the more difficult route, and it just kind of boggles my mind. I mean, a lot of things that the corporate side of the Democrats do boggles my mind, but this is just like, this is kind of scary stuff. You know what I mean?
No, it's very scary. It's very, very scary, Shay. I mean, look, it's the fact that the same people who thought that you go after Trump and you make him the issue. Of course, same time you're doing that, you're elevating him. And when you have a subpar
Mm-hmm.
candidate, it may work in some places. I mean, they got a moron that actually was part of the January 6th thing running in Pennsylvania, right? Well, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
the other candidate wasn't anything great either, but you have a decent candidate in the Attorney General and Shapiro. He could have beaten either one of them. So you don't have to, make the case for somebody who actually was a perpetrator on January 6th. And there are other candidates, like this.
Right.
There are just whack jobs. So I don't know. I tell you, Shay, this is the problem. This is why the Democratic Party gets in their way and trips over their own shoes, year in and year out, and why they find themselves in the minority, particularly after the first 2 years. The first was Clinton, then Obama, now Biden. More than likely is going to lose the House, and because they don't really have a strong progressive message that they can run on and they can run across the country on. And even things like
Yeah,
high-speed rail, which is his backbone, Mr. Amtrak Biden, it's not part of the
absolutely.
agenda for these next couple of months. It's really, really a shame. It's, for the country purposes.
It
Go ahead.
absolutely couldn't have said it better. Yeah, it
Hey,
just seems like it's just so much more work. Anyway,
thank you, Shay. Appreciate it very much. All right, let's go
thank
to
you.
Mark Taylor-Canfield. Thank you. Mark, do we hear it? Can you hear us?
Yeah, sorry about that. Did I put myself on hold? I think I did. It was not your fault. So I don't even
Oh,
know where I went on hold there, but I was listening to what you were saying and pretty much agreeing. I mean, all I can say is that regardless of what happens with the political scene, even though we here in the Northwest have our own little bubble, the music scene is actually doing really great in Seattle. So I'm hoping that even if our politicians are not smart enough to figure things out and tell the truth to people, that at least maybe some of the musicians are, because our good friends Cedric and Eva Walker with the Blacktones are doing a national tour. The Martial Law Band with Marshall Hugh, they were playing at the Kraken games, and then when the Sounders won the North and Central American Champions League in soccer, international football, they were there performing. Ann Wilson is on tour. My good friend Shaina Shepherd just opened for Chaka Khan at the Zoo series here. And apparently the lion liked it, because when I went back to where they had the little green room or whatever, I could hear the lion roaring in the background. But yeah, I mean, I'm hoping that regardless of what happens with the national scene, and I think we are slipping a bit as more and more of the corporate Democrats get involved. I'm hoping more of the FDR crats will be able to dominate this next election. We need more Bernie Sanders, more Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, or Pramila Jayapals, and here in Seattle, Shama Sawant. We need people who are not afraid to call themselves democratic socialists or progressive Democrats or whatever what they want to call themselves, but who really are standing for the people. And that's what I think we're missing a lot across the country. So hopefully these bands out there, and it does seem like everybody and their brother is touring right now. Hopefully they can get the word out. Pearl Jam is on an international tour right now. Our friend Aaron Jones is opening for the Rolling Stones in Europe.
yeah. That's
So let's
fantastic.
see some of the
That's what we
musicians
need.
step up and try
Yeah,
to
I mean,
guide
and I'm serious when I say this. Bruce
it. Yeah.
Springsteen should think about running for president. I mean, it really, I mean, there's a Democrat alive that's going to vote against him. This is a guy, who's a Habitat for Humanity guy. This is a guy that, has played for all the candidates, the Kerrys of the world, the Al Gores, the Hillary Clintons of the world. I mean, really, I mean, is there somebody, but he's a working class guy. His whole message is working class. And if you want to reach the working class, why not have somebody like Bruce Springsteen? Maybe he doesn't want it, but I'm just saying, that should be real. I mean, there are
I
plenty of
wouldn't blame
people
him, but
around the
yeah.
world who are
Yeah, I
musicians
mean,
that
it's
have actually
possible.
run for office and have won. I think there's a guy in, I want to say Chile right now,
Yeah.
um, that is exactly that background. I think he's a musician. The guy from Midnight Oil was in Parliament, was a candidate for,
Yeah.
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 Um,
Poets, musicians, actors, playwrights, whatever it takes, authors. I mean, I would have loved
yeah,
to have seen, Gore Vidal elected senator from California. That would have been incredible. He was like one of my favorite authors of all time. It was so amazing
yeah,
to get
no,
to meet him before he passed on. But he ran for senator several times as a socialist, right? And it
yeah,
would be great to see people who are unabashedly, you know, to the left of the center. I'm not talking about radical Marxism. I'm talking about people who actually believe in things like universal health care. And how about a decent a mass transit, intercontinental transit system, something better than these fossil fuel cars? I mean, and also, how about free college education? We really need to improve our culture and be proud of what we do here, and educate people, and welcome people from all over the world to come here and get education and start a family and contribute to society. It's time for a lot of the barriers to go down, and it's time for the government to start thinking more like FDR did, which, let's give people a hand. Let's just help them out, okay? That's all we're asking, is just try to keep people going at a time when things are really difficult. And think about the environment too, because, that is going to be
no,
such
that's
a
exactly
huge
the
issue
case.
for all the younger people that are coming of age
Yeah.
to vote right now. If you want to
Hey,
appeal
Mark.
to everybody
Thank you,
under
my
the age
friend.
of 18 right now, as soon as they get voting. Thank you, Jeff. You guys did a great show today. Take care. All the best to you and your family. I hope things go well for you. I will talk to you soon.
Yes, no. Thank you, man. Appreciate it. Mark Taylor-Canfield right here on the Jeff Santos Show. I want to thank Freddie Santori for the rest of the and the great team there in Boca Raton for all their help today. Again, we look forward to seeing you on Monday, back on video as well. Until then, have yourself a great weekend. My name is Jeff Santos, and right now it is my time to say, I gotta go.